Card games are a great hobby. They're fun to play, but sometimes you have a friend that moves off to college, or maybe there's not a card shop locally that has the game that you want to play, or it might even be your own life getting in the way. You know, work can do that. So here's some alternatives. Welcome to HiveState. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 different kinds of card games that are online card games, each spanning a different kind of play style and theme, so hopefully we'll find something you like. The first one I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to talk long about because it's so well known, and that one, to no one's surprise, is Hearthstone. Blizzard's online card game Hearthstone is one of the most popular online card games right now, and it's for a good reason. Its simplistic but in-depth gameplay, along with the Warcraft theme, makes it appeal to a wide variety of audiences. And on top of that, it's a free-to-play. And while on the topic of free-to-play, unlike a couple other on this list, this is not a pay-to-win. Yeah, I included a pay-to-win, but I'll explain why in a bit, don't click away yet. In Hearthstone, you can buy packs with real money, but unlike some other games, you don't need to. The currency they give you in the game is definitely enough to build a competitive deck if you spend it right. Granted, some people aren't a fan of competitive formats, but it's okay because the game has a solo play and a casual mode for those who are interested. Also, if you enjoy draft or sealed, the game has a game mode for that as well called the Arena. Moving on to the next game of the list, I'd like to talk about a game called Cabals. I adore the theme of Cabals, but what is a Cabal? Well, Cabal, noun. The artifices and intrigues of a group of persons secretly united in a plot as to overturn a government. Also, a group engaged in such artifices and intrigues. Sounds rather occulty, doesn't it? Well, in some senses it is. You choose a hero and craft your cabal around that. But before you start crafting, in the very beginning of the game, you'll be giving a free starter deck to start playing the game and learn how everything works. There are starters and other booster packs that you can purchase from the store with influence, which you gain while playing the game. And like the previously mentioned game, influence is relatively easy to gain if you keep playing. The gameplay for Cabal is also something that's rather interesting. Instead of a normal playing field in front of you, you're set with a board, and these boards can look like different ways. And your cards, once played, are represented as coins on the battlefield. The object of the game is to be able to control your opponent's stronghold. If you end up doing that, you win. Throughout the game, you'll conquer other locations that'll end up giving you resources or maybe even new summon spots to bring up more characters while you're trying to take down your opponent. And something to remember is you don't need to have a piece on a spot to still control it. Once you've had something with influence there and it's your color, it's yours until the opponent takes it. All of your cards get one action a turn. Now this is something that can either be spent to use an effect on a card or maybe move and or attack depending on where your pieces are. Combat is very simple in Cabal. Your characters only have one stat, and that's strength. Basically, you deal your strength to your opponent, and they deal their strength to you. If either card survives, you'll get a little number next to your strength, showing how much damage you've taken. This is known as stamina. Now, the stamina can be positive and negative throughout the game, and this is just something that will constantly change depending on how things are played. Now, in comparison to most other online card games, this one doesn't have as many cards to choose from, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It keeps the game kind of simplistic, but it makes deck building all that more important because there's a limited pool to choose from, which for new players keeps things unthreatening, but for players who've played for a while, keeps the combinations interesting in how you can mix things together. It's a quality over quantity kind of thing, you know? And it also keeps each Cabal feeling unique, and I like that. The third game on this list holds an oddly nostalgic part in my heart. This is Urban Rivals. Urban Rivals was a game made back in 2006, and it's based on the fantasy location Clint City and all of the battles that happen inside of it. Now in this game, using the same card repetitively actually matters. The more you use a card, the more experience it gains. Once it has enough experience, it levels it up, giving it new art, better stats, and possibly a new ability. This does have a cap though. It always ranges from 2 to 5 stars. That way you always know what the max level a card is going to be. While we're kind of on the same topic, let's go ahead and talk about card collecting, formats, and deck building. Unlike the previous game, Urban Rivals has over 1,000 different characters, and new ones are releasing regularly. Those 1,000 plus characters are also spread over 30 different clans, so you're almost guaranteed to find at least one where you either like the theme or the way they play. Just for an example, if you're a sports person, there's a clan for that. Do you like creepy things? Okay, would you prefer clowns or monsters? Now, I'm not saying there's aliens, but there's aliens. And there's also a clan for the furries. You're included too. Those are only 5 of the clans. There's so many different varieties to choose from. Now there is a bonus for sticking with one clan instead of splitting it up between multiple, but I'll talk more about that in a bit. Deck building in Urban Rivals is a huge part of this game and how it works. Instead of most card games where you have anywhere between like 40 to 80 cards, in Urban Rivals you only really have 8. Granted, in this game deck building is kind of hard to talk about because currently there's like 7.5 formats. Okay, so to kind of generalize it the best I can, it's normally something along the line of 8 or more characters, plus, minus, or on the dot of 25 stars. There's often a no doubles rule, and sometimes there's a ban list depending on the format. Okay, so I've rambled about the uniqueness of cards and the variety of decks, but I haven't even talked about how the game's played. Okay, once you have a deck and you've chosen your format, you're going to be faced with an opponent, and 4 cards are going to be flipped up from your deck. Those are the 4 that you're going to be using during that game. Okay, once you've done that, you'll then spend pills to try and best your opponent. And if you do, you're going to deal damage to their total health. It's a simple system, but it has such a complex feel when you're playing. Because you see an attack coming in and you're going, okay, is this an attack that's actually meant to hurt me? Or is this a bluff so they'll have more pills to spend later and I'm going to be wasting mine? And it's a very think-heavy game for just 4 cards. Abilities and bonuses also play a huge part in this game. Abilities are character specific, so each one have their own, and bonuses are those that if you have 2 of the same clan fighting together, it unlocks a special ability. Now, real talk for a moment, this is the game on the list that I was saying is a pay to win, but I'm not sure if I can still say that for sure. Now, I started playing this game back in 2008, and at that point in time, it was, without a doubt, pay to win. If you wanted packs, you were buying them. There's nothing around that. So the cards that you wanted to play with, you had to purchase. But now the game is, without a doubt, not as bad as it used to be on that. You get things free a good bit more often, and it's not near as close to a pay to win as it once was. Now, even though you can get things easier now, you'll probably be able to maybe even get a competitive deck playing just solely free after enough time, or at least partially competitive. But you're probably going to still want to buy packs because it's an extremely grindy process if you don't, and it's honestly better just to kind of skip it. It's still a good game though. So the next game on the list has an obscene amount of fan service. So if you're not okay with it, there's a little button so you can just go ahead and skip it, but I did promise variety in this video. And this is also the first game on the list that's not free to play. Okay, so the game I'm talking about is Monster Monpiece. So the majority of this game is single player. You play game after game, exploring a map, unfolding more and more as you do, and unveiling this big storyline. During the game you have 3 different rows that you're going to be summoning monsters to protect or attack. So each turn they're either going to take a step forward or attack what's in front of them. If you're able to get a card through to the opponent's side, they're going to take damage, and vice versa. Throughout the game you're going to level up your cards to enhance their stats, although I found some cards are better before they level up. Leveling up cards is also something you're probably not doing in public. Don't worry about why. Some cards are also only available through online play, so if you have a friend that has the game, it makes that process so much easier. You can also purchase packs in this game on top of the additional cost, but they are extremely overpriced and not necessary for any point in the game. All in all, if you can push past the loot, the game is definitely worth a play, worth the price of admission. Now the last thing I want to talk about is the game Infinity Wars. No, not the Marvel one, the card game. Now Infinity Wars has a few features that definitely set it apart from other online card games. The first of which to note is fully animated cards. Every card in the game has its own unique animation. And that's really impressive considering there are hundreds of cards. The next thing that kind of sets this game apart from other card games is the fact that it has something that you can only really do in online card games, and that is simultaneous turns. Both you and your opponents will be playing cards, whether they be offensive or defensive. You can be moving them to different locations. You'll also be pre-planning abilities to trigger. Once both players lock in everything they're going to be doing, everything starts unfolding, and it's so interesting to watch. Also, when you're building a deck, you get to choose 3 leader cards. These are cards that both you and your opponent can see from the very start of the game. Something else that makes the leaders exceptionally useful is the fact that they're technically on the field as soon as the game starts, so some of their abilities can be triggered right out the gates. Also, what's neat is since they're not coming from hand, they don't have to be played into your support zone, so they can be popped out in attack or defensive position, whichever needs be. Also, you get to choose the purity of your deck whenever you're deck building. Do you want the deck to be all of one kind, or do you want to spread the purity out between 3 different types of cards? Now, some cards require you to have a certain amount of purity before you can put them in the deck, so this is something you have to think about very carefully. The single player mode in this game is actually really good as well. It starts telling a story that's compelling enough to where you want to just keep playing it. Or at least I wanted to keep playing it. I guess it's very opinionated, but I liked it. Now you do get a decent bit of cards through leveling up, but actually buying a booster pack with in-game credits takes quite a while to save up for. The game honestly has a really, we'd like you to buy something please, feeling to it, but with how good the game is, they deserve a little money thrown their way. And that's it, the list is over. Those were 5, I almost just fell, physical or digital card games that may replace that card game void in your life. If you'd like to see anything else I've made, I'm going to put some links up on the screen so you can watch that, and if not, well, you'll see me when you see me. Bye guys.